Hoskinson. You're talking about Obama's fair housing agenda, how that will change your neighborhood, your specific neighborhood in a lot of cases. I know it's changed my neighborhood. So anyway, we'll get to that, and then Laura Presley will be talking about a very interesting topic for me, voting corruption, and it just seems unfathomable that that could possibly happen in the state of Texas. But anyway, looks like there could be a chance it has. Calendar items. I wanted to bring up a few things. There is a candidate straw fair poll at the Arlington Convention Center on the 23rd. That's sponsored by the Tarrant County Republican Party. And then, of course, the regular debates are coming up. Is anybody super excited to keep watching debates? I know, they're like every 2 weeks now, it seems. Anybody watch the Democrat debate yesterday? No. And then, of course, the Iowa caucus is coming up in New Hampshire as well. Of course, Bill Wayburn was up here a minute ago, and he is certainly a Second Amendment fan. The February 4th, there's an event with the Tarrant County Republicans talking about open carry. I believe Connie Burton will be there, Jonathan Sticklin, and many other folks, so you might check that out. We'll post links on our page. It looks like an interesting thing. And I think they're providing dinner, too, for free, so that's always fun. In February coming up, we will have 2 9/12 meetings. It is election season, so we're going to have some exciting forums for you and a lot more ways that you can kind of vet your own candidates and some other exciting program. Look for that on the 1st and 3rd Mondays, normal time. So open carry, I mentioned that a second ago. It is official, right? To my knowledge, there has been no big rush to call 911. No Dallas police have reported no issues. Nobody really freaking out about it. And, anybody seen somebody open carrying yet? No? Seen them? Have you seen them? Yeah. What's that?
He said it is one.
It is one. All right. Great. Fantastic. I was really glad to hear that they weren't going to shut down the folks that were concealed carrying with one blanket sign said no conceal and no open carry. Thankfully, there are 2 different signs. So that was good for me to learn. And just an anecdotal, looks like H-E-B and Whole Foods are deciding not to follow the law, whereas Kroger is. Do with that information what you will. Yeah.
Target too.
Oh, Target's good?
No.
Oh, Target's no? All right. Well, I know Walmart apparently will, at least the last article I saw, will, but they have managers at the front that will apparently check your IDs you're going in. I think that was more of a liquor law scenario, at least that's what they were trying to claim in the article.
It's not your way.
Along those lines, let me adjust the sound here. San Bernardino was not that long ago. Freaky stuff is happening in the world, and whether you're concealed carry or you're open carry or you just have a gun at home, you know, it's I think important for us to be aware of our surroundings, armed or unarmed. So I talked to our board, and I thought this was a great video. They showed it to me at my last company. I'll play it for you now, and I don't know. I hope you share it with friends.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Not a bad video, right? I probably should have asked folks if you have got a heart condition, maybe leave the room. Yeah, was that a good video? That was the best active shooter video I think I've seen. I was told it was produced by the Department of Justice, and several folks have used that before at their previous companies. So, crazy stuff. This will be posted on our website if you want to share that with friends and family. And as always, be aware of your surroundings. Next up, Sheila, are you here? I think I saw you earlier. Yeah, come on up, Sheila. Sheila is one of our wonderful members. It's a doctor. She's going to give us an update on something she's working on.
Thank you. I'm frequently asked by people that I meet, where are the doctors in the fight against socialized medicine and the encroachment of socialized medicine that's come with Obamacare? And all of you know that the hardworking taxpayers are facing higher and higher premiums, higher deductibles, and they're paying out a lot of money for a lot less for medical care, and it doesn't seem like there's any way to stop the steamroller. And every time a politician, and if you're a politician in this room, not you, but someone you know, sits down with a representative from an insurance company or a hospital corporation, they're bargaining for the price of the physician's labor, the cost of your care, and quite frankly, the value of your life. And I think it's time for us to take back that responsibility. And we take control of the patient care situation. And we set the rules, okay? And you guys are the ones who make decisions about your care. But it's your insurance companies that your physicians fight on a daily basis, trying to get permission to help you out. So we decided to address this by forming a new PAC, and it's a physician-led PAC. I filed it on Friday, so it's pending. We're waiting for our number, but we should be getting it soon, and we'll be able to make the announcement that we're ready to go. And our purpose is to support candidates who are going to stand up for you, and they're going to defend the patients and the physicians who want to take care of their patients with integrity. And also I'll tell you what the name's going to be. We played with you know how acronyms are kind of fun. So we decided, well, what if we call it Doctors with Integrity? But then that would be DWI PAC, so maybe that's not a good idea. And we came up with physicians interested in saving society with ethical determination. And that's true. That turns out, that sounds about right, but no, we're not going to use that. And one of my favorite, which we're not going to use, is Conservative Republican Association of Physicians. We give up. Okay, it's Physicians for Integrity and Patient Care. That's the name, and we will be sending out an announcement soon, and we're going to work hard to elect and keep in office the good guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Next up, we have our first main speaker, Michael Hoskinson. If you can give him a nice warm welcome. Come on up, Mike.
Thank you, Ken. Hello, everybody. How are you? Thank you for your gracious invitation. Thank you to Georgia. We're Facebook friends, and look what happens. If Facebook isn't all bad, we can all get together online. And I was in town for a political training down in Irving, Texas, which I'll talk about a little bit later because I'd love to get you all involved in that. But I am currently serving as a planning commissioner in Huntington Beach, California. It is as bad as you hear in California. It may be a little bit worse, really. But we were a very motivated group. 3 of us didn't like what was happening in our town. We had 4 progressives on our city council that were attempting to socially engineer us. We got mad. We took a bit of training, and we found a good conservative gentleman, Marine, and a family man, and a businessman, and we kicked them off of the council. One of them got so mad, he moved to North Dakota. He wanted to be the first gay mayor of Huntington, and we denied him that pleasure. They love their firsts. So I'm a real estate broker. I was in the restaurant business for many years. Child of a single mother who ran a restaurant, still in existence 49 years later. I fell into the Santa Monica Tea Party, and if you want to have fun, nothing against Tea Party here, but try having a tea party in a communist city. It is quite fun. And Kelly, how far can I move, Kelly?
You're perfect, right
Good.
there.
She told me how far I could. I told her I was going to prowl around a little bit. I can't stand still. I've been in 30 hours of training in 3 days, and I need to move a little bit. So, the gentleman who we got on the city council put me on the planning commission, and we're inside the building breaking things, and it's a lot of fun. And so we then found, after we removed the progressives, that the real problem for us was the Chamber of Commerce. So we are preparing to remove them this coming November as well, because they're making a bid to take our town over.
Excellent.
So your chamber may vary, you don't know. So I am going to talk to you about HUD's program a little bit, affirmatively furthering fair housing, but I want to dispel a myth first. How many people have heard of Agenda 21? Good, good. How many people have mentioned it in public and been called a conspiracy theorist? Good. So this, I just like to get it out of the way just to give you a little bit of cover here. So we're fighting sustainable development everywhere. You're fighting it here too, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. This is the United Nations website. It is their page that is about sustainable development. It shows clearly it is called Agenda 21. It's exactly the same. So your local council of government has a page all devoted to sustainable development. They are busy implementing Agenda 21 right under your nose and lying to your face about it. So sustainable development is a doctrine that basically says it's linked to global warming. It's an environmentalist program that says we are eating up the world's resources and we need to slow down and we need to live with less. So whenever I think of sustainable development, I just think of they want us to live with less. I do not want to live with less. I'm too old to live with less. I want more. And there's no reason for it. This is the excuse for everything now, is global warming. And I don't waste much time with global warming because it's really simple. The government's own satellites have said it hasn't warmed in 19 years. There is no global warming. It is
Weather.
the greatest hoax in human history, ever. This is being used. I live in a green dictatorship, and I'm not kidding you. Jerry Brown is trying to make California carbon-free by 2050. And last time I checked, CO2 was the thing that made air.
Amen.
So I can't help but think they want to kill us all. It's just that's my conspiracy theory. But so I'm a simple person. I think very simply. And I think, so I debunk this. So therefore, anything that comes from global warming is wrong. It's false, right? So every plot, every program, every tax, every single thing that comes from this false thing is wrong. So sustainable development is that thing. So sustainable development controls everything. In California, they're using it to control our water, our energy, our food, our transportation, our housing, and a little bit of immigration too. They throw that in there because they got to have green housing for those new Syrian immigrants. And I thought of this, I was reading, because I've sadly had to become a bit of an expert in Islam as well, and I read about Sharia law. And Sharia law is essentially, it's a code for living, from A to Z. It tells them how to live. Same thing with sustainable development. It's their equivalent to that. It's a program, it's a blueprint for how humans are supposed to live going forward. So how does it get into our towns? It gets in through environmental propaganda, weak politicians. So we have a big problem with high-density housing. We're fighting this fight right now. And politicians this is linked to sustainable development because sustainable development says people need to give up their single-family homes on their lots and live in a tiny little apartment because somehow it's better for the environment. And I haven't quite figured that out yet. But they use that as it's saying global warming, this is what it says, and this is the way we need to live. And we found that through the general plan process, this is how they're sneaking in a lot of this into our towns without us knowing much. So we're still going through a general plan redo, and I was the one that did a tiny bit of digging and found out our city had hired a global warming consultant to write our general plan and paid them $2 million.
Million? Oh my God.
Reals for our little town. 193,000 people, but it's not huge. So we have Everybody remembers Arnold Schwarzenegger for his lovely movies. He was also one of the worst governors we've ever had. He brought in AB 32, which is the cap and trade law. And that's how they're sneaking in all this dense housing, again, based on global warming. They're also stealing through the cap and trade law. Cap and trade is a thing where they're pricing carbon. And they're stealing $4 billion a year from California industry under this law. 25% of it goes to low-income housing. And then there's a map that the EPA, the California version of the EPA uses called the Disadvantaged Communities Map. And these are little blotches all over a map, and it says where the towns are that are disproportionately affected by global warming, all over California. And that's where they direct this $1 billion a year for low-income housing. And I laid a political map of districts over the top of that, and it coincided with purple and red districts. So they are changing the electoral map of California with stolen public money, injecting low-income voters into conservative districts. Under everybody's nose.
You got it right here, too.
Grants. Grants are what is tied into affirmatively furthering fair housing, which is the HUD program. So every one of our towns everywhere takes federal and state grants. It's the lifeblood of towns. So what HUD now, under the direction of President Obama and HUD's director, Julian Castro, who I know a lot of you know from Texas, is done, is say, if you take grant money, the feds can then come in and take over your zoning. And then we will determine where you put low-income housing. And it will be next to your wealthiest neighborhoods, because it's only fair. You know, it's only fair that we get to put them, why would you want to put them in their poor places? Let's put them in the rich places. So they've done it in Westchester County, and there's a number of other test cases across the neighborhood or across the country. And we went to, I read the entire 377-page document and redlined it for my councilman. We went to city council and we made a plea and said, we can no longer afford to take federal grants, community development block grants. And they tabled it for 2 weeks. And the unions came in 2 weeks later and brought illegal immigrants, which is shocking to me, who could barely speak English, and they came to the city council and they said, we need our money. I'm not kidding you, that's how crazy California is. And they voted all the grants in.
Oh my God.
So we expect to be, have our zoning taken over by HUD sometime soon. I like it here, it's nice. So,
Happening right here, too.
everywhere that you see somebody telling you you need to get rid of your car, or you need to get on public transportation, or you need to walk more, or why don't you get on a bike? Get out of that truck, get on a bike. That's sustainable development. And the public subsidization of high-density, low-income development. And it's all redistribution of income, and we know we've heard a lot about that in the last 7 years.
No, haven't we?
So this is how it works. Federal and state laws. And I found that you guys have a council of government. You've got NCT-COG.
Yep.
So it goes to NCT-COG, goes down to the planning departments in the local cities. And let me tell you a little bit about your local planning department. You probably know them, you probably dealt with them. They have been inculcated in sustainable development for 21 years. President Clinton, the first thing he did in office was give millions of dollars to the American Planning Association to make sustainable development a core part of their curriculum. There is no planner in America that is not implementing this. It is their lifeblood. It ensures their employment forever, because they essentially get to remake all of our towns. So once it's in the planning department, your city councils and your chambers of commerce get together and then decide where they're going to put all this new building. It goes over to city council, gets voted in, like we had a big zoning overlay, they did a thing called the Beach Edinger Plan, 5 miles down our biggest street in town. They said it was a commercial revitalization. They lied to the public's face, it was passed, and then they built 100-unit and acre apartment buildings. And that's where the public got mad, because they figured out they'd been hoodwinked. And I'll tell you, I've never seen an issue like this where I don't care if you're the most rabid leftist to the most conservative person in our town, everyone hates high-density housing. And it's our fault a little bit. We have played it to death. So here's the page from your Council of Government here. And there's your sustainable development right here. So it is in your town now. And it's being implemented. And it is United Nations Agenda 21 is exactly what it is. And if you went to the COG now, and you went to the desk and you mentioned that, they'd laugh at you. And they'd give you that little, you got your tinfoil hat on, honey, you gotta stop that. But it's here, there's no denying what it is. And this is everywhere. You know, this is, we're all not special, we're all in the same boat now. So I always want to look at now who benefits in all this. Government grows massively with this program. So I think of every little interest group here. Government grows, they get more of our taxes, regulatory control gets control of the populace, and a lot of politicians use it because they have the sympathetic voters out there that will vote them in because they're voting for the environment. Planners, like I mentioned, have a vested interest in this, and developers and all the business interests, and at least in our area, are salivating to build more of this. And they are lining up and telling the public every lie they can do to get this put in. That's why I came, once we had found out the chamber was very involved in this, I came to think, what is this all about? Because I noticed the chamber was involved, the green folks were involved, low-income folks were involved, business interests, and this is a perfect storm because they figured out the only way they could make this work was to buy off the business interests and let them do the building. So it's a marriage of the green authoritarian left because they get their more heavy control society, and the business folks get to build and make money in perpetuity. Like we mentioned, it's based in global warming, but more than that, it's 180 degrees away from our American system of freedom, because none of us consented to this. None of us looked in the eye and said, what do you think about this? They had to sell this in the dark at every corner, and they still do. And it's happening right under our fingernails. And the truth I had to come to was people are lying to our faces about this every day. And they don't care. Because it's gone so far now. This whole deception and lie, global warming, and all the things that go along with it have gone so far that they just think, well, there's nothing we can do about it, so let's push it forward. And they're lying to our faces every day. So this is a guy who's one of the perpetrators, French guy, wrote a book called Suburban Nation. I love this quote. Every problem we face today can be connected to the dysfunctional way we inhabit the land. And if you read the book of Agenda 21 and a lot of the other core documentation, there are many passages where they say private property is the problem because they want to end the ability for people to own property. And I don't know about you, but I think of, like, I'm a realtor, so I'm out of a job, number one. But number two, private property is the bedrock of our freedoms. You know, just a notch maybe behind free speech. If we don't have our castle to go to, where are we go? Well, then we're a vassal that is unconnected to land, and we don't have any freedom. So wherever you had to see somebody telling you that, let that private property go, you know this is coming behind it. So what do? Well, you listen to crackpots in California, come visiting about tinfoil hat conspiracies, but one thing we've done is, like I mentioned while I'm in town, is get some training. And I've gotten training from a group called Campaign for Liberty. I know some of you have probably heard about that. And to further freak people out, it's Ron Paul's organization. But these guys are specialists in training people to pull bad politicians out of office. Sorry to the politicians in here. Don't want to tell them that, but there's no bad politicians in here, right? But, so I just took their campaign management school. I've been in their classroom for 30 hours of the last 3 days, so if I look a little punchy, it's probably because I am. But we took their one-day training course 2 years ago, the 3 core group of our little team. And we used their principles to kick those bad progressives out of our town. And so I couldn't recommend bringing these folks in to do a bit of a training with you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Because they teach you very core, very non-ideological ways and a very definitive system to, if you've got bad politicians that are not paying attention to their constituents and not using their power to give us more freedom instead of less freedom. These people are specialists in pulling them out of office. Because one thing we realized in our little hamlet is I can't do anything about Washington, right? I can't do anything about Sacramento. I'd like to, but I can't, it's too big. But if we take our town over, then we have a firewall, you know? You put Kelly on the council, you're gonna have a firewall there. Because now, we changed the rules for this high-density housing, which we did. We got in, we amended it, said you can't build those monsters anymore. You can build a moderate one. You can have what the people are telling you they want. We're being sued now because they're coming at us. Chamber of Commerce is coming at us. The low-income advocates are coming at us, and they're telling us we hate poor people. You know, that old saw. So, but we elected a new city attorney who said he'll fight it, and our good guys on our council have said they'll fight it. So sometimes this is your last line of defense, is having a council that listens to the will of the people. And so we're going to hope that we elect somebody, you know, another one this coming November, because the chamber's looking for that one more vote so they can pave paradise and put up a parking lot from the old song. And the last line here is, this is straight out of Campaign for Liberty. They teach folks like us to plan, prepare, act, and evaluate. And that's the core of their program. And anybody who wants to talk more about it, I can certainly expand on it or talk to you afterwards. But I think that's it. So.
Your last statement there was plan,
Prepare, act, and evaluate.
Why is evaluate at the end instead of?
Because it's a very systematic system that we.
Microphone.
Oh, there we go. It's a very systematic thing that they have. They train you to do. The last thing is you're completing an entire action of something. Or maybe it's a campaign, or it's you're putting in a bill or whatever you're doing, but you're evaluating at the end of it to see how well you did.
Sir, I'll trade you.
The word? Hey. Sir.
Okay, my name's John Godfrey.
Hey, John.
I'm a veteran from the Vietnam War and everything, and I've heard all the politicians talk since the 60s.
Okay.
It's all bullcrap. But the thing I've noticed is that you guys are talking about that this is so important, that our very livelihood is at stake. And tell me why people who consider themselves conservative are not screaming this across the TV. They may be doing it over social media, and they say, well, the media controls what we say. No, if you come out with something new, which this would be new to most of the population, they'll listen, they'll bring it out. Now, you tell me, you've had more experience in this, and any other politician in here, tell me why this hasn't been done, if this is so important.
Why it hasn't been stopped?
Yeah.
Right. So somebody mentioned before that you guys have, in Fort Worth here, somebody mentioned that they've got new big bike lanes and there's a lot more public transportation, and they mentioned they've been implementing stuff like this. So it's here. And this stuff is just the precursor to what they want to do on the overall plan. Because these guys have been at this for 60 years. And
Why aren't they saying anything about it?
I can't speak for them, sir. I don't know. but all I can tell you is that there's a lot of politicians, and especially, we get a special breed of conservative in California that isn't very conservative. And they're into much more being in lockstep than anywhere else. But I don't know if you've got that problem here as well. But they may just be folks that they look at this as not much of a threat. And they probably, like we remember the senator or the congressman that said, read the bills. I don't read those bills. How would they know? I mean, I have read tens of thousands of pages of it. I couldn't find a politician that's done what I've done. So I think until you read it, and then you connect the dots, because I think there's another little that none of us ever do anymore, is connect the dots. It's there. So I would tell you that's probably more particular to the breed of politician than anything else. You and me both.
I'm Ray Myers, and just to piggyback what you're saying, if some of the folks in here want to do just a hair of research, all you have to do is Google the 45 Goals of Communism, 1963. 45 Goals of Communism. Just Google that. Just Google that. 45 Goals of Communism. It's all there. It's all there in the goals. Well, there's 53, but if you, is it 53? It's 45. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's all there. All you have to do is Google the goals of communism for the United States, and it's all there. And you'll see it not only for Agenda 21, but for our schools, the gay marriage, the whole thing. It's right there for you to see. It's pretty scary.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Sir, Dave.
I think our mayor maybe does Agenda 21.
You think?
Is he in the room here? Where's the mayor?
Betsy Price.
Bicycle Betsy.
Well, I heard something shocking the other day. Like, how many people have been to northern Idaho before? Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
I love northern Idaho. I mean, outside of Fort Worth, some of the nicest folks I've met in America. And there's a little town called Sandpoint that's at the northern end of that.
Yeah.
Wonderful town. And the mayor, just last week, brought out an inclusion and tolerance measure to invite Syrian refugees to that little town. And the citizens descended on him like a pack of wolves. And they're already going to recall him. But the point I would make, it's wonderful. The point I would make is this stuff is everywhere. If it's in a little town like Sandpoint, who's safe from this silliness? You know, the inclusion and tolerance, political correctness garbage. I mean, I wish I had a couple more hours here. I've been doing research to make a video about where political, I'll take a poll from everybody. Was political correctness organic or was it man-made? Man-made. German Marxists in the 1920s, a group of them came up with it. And it rules, I think of it as anything that rules our life right now is political correctness. And it's crazy stuff. So, I'm sorry, we'll get off topic here. Do you have any more questions?
Yes, I'm Barry Schleich from Burleson, and I have two comments. One is that Georgia Stapleton, you taught me everything I need to know about Agenda 21. She's been banging that drum for about, 10 years? I appreciate learning from you guys. The second thing is that little towns and little people can have an influence. We had, in Burleson, Texas, we had an ordinance being proposed that was for a green belt. And if you happen to have a house in a green belt, you have to have an arborist come out, measure your trees, and you were taxed on the trees that were in your property, and you didn't have any. You didn't have to, and you could never cut these things down without permission of the arborist. So we went out, we fought that private property, no trespassing on my property kind of crap, and eventually did get beat down. But it's insidious. It's absolutely insidious. It's little ordinances, and pretty soon you turn your property over to some government bureaucrat.
Yeah.
Well, I have one ray of sunshine. Down on the south side, they've got a whole street that is designated as a bike lane. A whole street. So I asked some policemen, I said, look, if you are driving your car in a bike lane, you're going to give them a ticket? He said, we're not giving tickets for people driving in bike lanes, so that's a good thing.
I find these folks all the time at home, and they'll make this, we get a gal who's a lawyer from Berkeley that lives in Huntington Beach, and she is a activist. And she comes to the meetings and yells at us that we don't have wide enough bike lanes, and we need to build bigger bike lanes. And I looked at her in public one time at a meeting, I said, well, you know, cars are 95% of traffic, and they're there for people who are working and moving goods and services and making the economy move. I appreciate that that's your hobby, but why would we make more room for you? Because we've got to move people. And I made a new enemy that day. I've never seen anybody look at me with more hate in their eyes, you know, than that gal did. It's just, they're zealots. You know, they're zealots. They believe this thing to their core, you know, and they would steal every freedom we have, everything we hold sacred. They'd have you out walking to the store. You know, I've had to look at people in public meetings, and I said, guys, I've got to go to Home Depot. I'm a builder, I'm a developer. I go to Home Depot, go to Costco, I got all this big. I go, how am I going to get all that stuff on my bicycle? And they just look at you with a blank look. I didn't expect you to ask me that question. Yeah, so, any other questions?
Back here?
Sure.
Here in Fort Worth, of course, everyone loves to have trees, but we have an ordinance here in Fort Worth that you have to get a permit to cut down any tree in your yard. And if you don't get a permit, the minimum fine is $500. People don't realize that this tree ordinance that we have here is a terrible impediment to development, and it really takes away a tremendous amount of property rights that we have, and it really should be abandoned in total. It cannot be modified. It is written in such a manner that it could not be modified. It just needs to be gone.
Totally agree.
All right, one right here.
My name is Jack Cavanaugh. I'm from Parker County.
Hey, Jack.
The subdivision we live in has deed restrictions. Deed restrictions are a good thing.
Yes, it can be.
And I comply with almost all of them. This guy brought up a real touchy subject with me.
Yeah.
And I took on the board, hell, I took on the whole damn county. It says you cannot cut a tree, any kind of tree, even a dead tree, that's over 4 inches diameter.
Yeah.
Well, I built my house with a very large fireplace. And I should go to town and buy wood? Hell no, I bought a chainsaw. Do I ask anybody if I cut a dead tree? No, that's stupid. And you'll see something on all of my posts on Facebook, my 4 favorite words. I will not comply.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I just don't do it. Learn how to say no to me.
I live next door to this guy, he's telling the truth.
How did we build the greatest country in the history of man with all these rules? I don't get it. I don't get that.
It ain't gonna be easy.
Yeah, I don't remember Davy Crockett asking for permission to cut trees down.
This tree issue is very easy to solve. If you just hang a Confederate flag in the tree, they'll cut it down for you.
I think with that, I think it's probably good for questions. Right, any closing thoughts?
I would just say, folks, don't be California. I mean, my wife and I, we got married a couple years ago. She came from Toronto. And I looked at her recently, I said, honey, the door is ringing and it's us leaving it soon. Because if they take a couple more things away, I told her we're out of there. And she said to me, well, where would we go? I said, oh, Northern Idaho. You know, I like this. She says, I will not move to the cold again. So I'm informed it's pretty warm here, so this might be the spot. But I would say, don't let it happen. You know, we took our eye off the ball in California, and it's going to go down at some point. It's going to be really ugly. I would say, connect the dots, use your common sense, and I know you guys have a ton of it, or you wouldn't be sitting here on this night. And don't let it happen here, because you do not want to be California. Thank you.